Nobody from my family came to my husband's funeral, not even my parents nor my best friend. My name is Nina, and I am 32. As they lowered my husband, Michael, into the ground, I stood alone, surrounded by strangers with pitying eyes. Not a single family member came. No parents, no sister, not even Jessica, my best friend since childhood. They all chose my sister Rachel's engagement party instead. As the dirt hit the casket, my phone lit up. A message from Mom: "We need to talk now." Below it, 22 missed calls. If you're watching this video, what would you do in my position? Please like and subscribe to hear how I found strength when everyone I loved abandoned me. Michael and I met during our sophomore year of college. He bumped into me at the library, sending my stack of psychology textbooks flying. Instead of just apologizing and walking away, he helped me gather everything and offered to buy me a coffee to make up for it. That coffee date turned into dinner, then a movie night, and eventually into 5 beautiful years of marriage. Our love story wasn't without obstacles. My family opposed our relationship from the start. Michael came from a working-class family. His dad was a mechanic, his mom a nurse. Honest, hard-working people who raised a son with strong values and an amazing work ethic. But to my status-conscious parents, he might as well have been from another planet. "You could do so much better, Nina," my mother would say. "Think about your future. He'll never provide the lifestyle you deserve." My father was blunt. "That boy has no connections, no family money, nothing to offer except student loans." I ignored them. Michael had everything that mattered. He was brilliant, finishing his engineering degree with honors while working part-time. Compassionate, volunteering at an animal shelter on weekends. And he loved me unconditionally, supporting my dreams without ever asking me to change. We had a small wedding, paid for ourselves to avoid strings attached. My family attended, but their disapproval was clear in stiff smiles and minimal interaction with Michael's side. Rachel spent most of the reception texting, occasionally making snarky comments about the modest venue or catering. Jessica, my maid of honor and lifelong friend, seemed torn between us, but mostly gravitated toward Rachel. I was grateful she was there at all. Our marriage was everything I hoped for. A small apartment, both working full-time, me as a marketing coordinator, Michael as a project engineer. We traveled when we could, explored the city, and spent quiet evenings dreaming about the future. 2 kids, a house, maybe a dog. Normal dreams, but extraordinary because we shared them. The contrast between my life with Michael and my family grew sharper each year. Family gatherings became exercises in endurance, with subtle digs about our apartment, Michael's career, or why we hadn't had children yet. Rachel received nothing but praise for her law firm job, expanding social circle, and wealthy boyfriends. "When are you going to give us grandchildren?" Mom would ask me. 10 minutes later, she would tell Rachel, "Take your time. Focus on your career. Children can wait." The double standard was obvious, but I'd grown used to it. Michael would squeeze my hand under the table, his silent support more valuable than any approval from them. Jessica had been there too, watching me endure being overshadowed by Rachel all my life. Missed graduations, practical Christmas gifts while Rachel got designer presents. "Your family is tough," she admitted once. "But they love you in their way." I nodded, not believing it, but appreciating the effort. What I didn't realize was how Jessica started believing my family's perspective, that I was somehow less deserving. Everything changed 6 months ago. Michael had been experiencing headaches and fatigue. We thought it was stress until he collapsed during a run. The diagnosis was brutal, stage 4 brain cancer. 6 months to a year with treatment. Without it, less. I called my parents immediately, voice breaking. "Oh, that is terrible," my mother said, with minimal concern. "Have you gotten a second opinion?" Doctors are dramatic. Sometimes these things resolve themselves. Stay positive. "Oh, Rachel told us her boyfriend might propose soon. We may be planning a wedding." I hung up feeling hollow, though not surprised. Jessica's initial reaction seemed genuine: shock, tears, offers to help. But as weeks passed and Michael began aggressive treatment, she became scarce. Work deadlines, family obligations, her own health, there was always an excuse. "I promise I'll visit this weekend," she'd text, then cancel at the last minute. Michael fought his illness with courage. Radiation made him violently ill, chemotherapy took his hair and 20 pounds. I took family medical leave, draining our savings to be with him every day. I learned to administer medications, manage his diet, clean up when he couldn't keep anything down. I was his advocate, nurse, researcher, and still tried to be his wife. Through it all, my family remained distant. Rachel never visited. My parents came once, 30 minutes, visibly relieved to leave. Jessica made it twice, both times staying less than an hour, uncomfortable around the hospital and Michael's condition. "People show up differently in a crisis," Michael said one night as I cried beside him. "Some can't handle suffering." Even dying, he excused those who should have been supporting us. His own friends and family were a constant contrast, present, supportive, caring. As Michael worsened, Rachel announced her engagement to Bradford, a wealthy lawyer. Mom called, bubbling with excitement. "We're planning the most beautiful engagement party at the country club, best caterer in the city. Of course, you'll be a bridesmaid." "When is the party?" I asked, dreading the answer. 3 weeks from Saturday," she said. "We wanted nice weather for photos." My heart sank. "Mom, Michael is dying. The doctors say he may only have weeks left." Heavy silence. "Nah, your sister only gets engaged once. Surely Michael would understand if you went for an evening." "He is dying. My husband is dying." "Well, we'll miss you. I'll tell Rachel you send congratulations." The party was scheduled for the same weekend the doctors warned me to prepare for the end. Weeks later, Michael's condition worsened. The experimental treatment failed, sending him into a seizure that required a week-long hospital stay. His oncologist pulled me aside after stabilizing him. "I'm sorry, but we're out of medical options," Dr. Patterson said, her gentle eyes full of genuine regret. "At this point, our goal is to keep him comfortable. You might want to consider hospice care." Hospice. The word I dreaded since his diagnosis. It meant no more fighting. It meant accepting the inevitable. It meant the beginning of goodbye. That night, I slept in the recliner beside Michael's hospital bed, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, memorizing the rise and fall of his chest. I held his hand, thin now, fragile, veins stark under almost translucent skin. In sleep, the pain lines around his eyes and mouth smoothed, and for brief moments, he looked like the man I had married. Our savings were gone. Medical bills had piled up despite insurance, and months of unpaid leave meant no income. Michael's parents helped as much as they could, but they were retired, living on a fixed income. I'd swallowed my pride and texted my father, asking if they could help with some of the expenses. "We are a bit stretched right now with Rachel's engagement party," he replied. "Maybe next month we can look at our budget." Next month, when Michael would probably be dead. Those last weeks, I barely slept. When I did, it was in short jolts, waking at the slightest hitch in Michael's breathing or a monitor beep. I lived on hospital cafeteria coffee and vending machine granola bars. My clothes hung off me. Grief was already eating me alive before he was even gone. I kept sending updates to my family, clinging to the faint hope that the seriousness would finally break through their bubble of indifference. My texts grew increasingly desperate. "Michael has been moved to hospice care. The doctors say it could be days. Please come." My mother, sending prayers. "By the way, did you see the photos I sent of Rachel's engagement ring? 6 carats. Jessica, so sorry things are tough. I've been helping Rachel with engagement party planning. Totally swamped. We'll try to visit soon." No one came. I watched as Michael, once strong and vibrant, faded a little more each day. He still tried to be funny, asking me to sneak in his favorite chocolate milkshakes against doctor's orders. He worried more about me than himself. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself after," he said during a rare lucid moment. "Find joy again, Nina. Don't let this break you permanently." I promised, though I couldn't imagine a world with joy in it once he was gone. The night before Rachel's engagement party, Michael's breathing turned labored and irregular. The hospice nurse increased his morphine drip, gently explaining that this was often a sign the end was near. I called my parents. Mom, I think Michael is going tonight or tomorrow. Please. I need you here. Oh, Nina, she sighed. We have guests arriving from out of town for the party. Rachel would be devastated if we weren't there to greet them. My husband is dying, I shouted, making the nurse jump. Lower your voice, my mother snapped. You're being dramatic. People die every day. Your sister only gets engaged once. I hung up, shaking with rage and disbelief. I tried Jessica next. My last hope for someone familiar to stand beside me. Jess, please. I can't do this alone. Nina, I'm at the salon with Rachel right now. We're getting our hair done for tomorrow. I'm so sorry, but I promised her weeks ago I'd help with all the preparations. Michael died at 3:27 a.m. He went peacefully. His parents and I were holding his hands. The pain meds kept him comfortable, and his last conscious words to me were, "Thank you for loving me." I sat with his body until dawn, unable to grasp that the person I loved most in the world was gone, leaving only the shell that had housed him. My in-laws wrapped me in their arms, their grief as deep as mine but tempered by decades more of living. They helped me call the funeral home we had reluctantly chosen weeks earlier. They stayed while the staff came to take Michael's body, steadying me when my legs threatened to give out. As day broke, I checked my phone. Nothing from my family. They were probably asleep, resting up for Rachel's big day. I sent a simple text to our family group chat. Michael passed away a few hours ago. Funeral arrangements to follow. My father replied first. Sorry for your loss. We will be thinking of you today. Not we're coming. Not what can we do. Just distance. My mother, such sad news. Let us know about the funeral. Busy day ahead with party preparations. Rachel didn't respond at all. Jessica sent a private message. Oh my God, Nina, I'm so sorry. Do you need me to come over? Before I could answer, another text. Actually, I promised Rachel I'd help decorate the venue this morning. Can I come by after the party tonight? I didn't respond. There were no words left. The next 48 hours blurred into funeral arrangements. During one of his clearer days, Michael and I had talked about his wishes. He wanted something simple, cremation, a short service with his favorite music, nothing religious. He asked me to scatter some of his ashes at Lake Michigan, where we'd spent our first anniversary. The funeral director was kind but brisk as we went through the checklist: casket or cremation container. Which urn? Memorial pamphlet? Obituary? Each question felt impossible, brutal in its finality. Michael's parents helped where they could, but they knew these were ultimately my choices as his wife. I picked a plain wooden casket for the viewing, a blue ceramic urn that matched his eyes, and approved an obituary that felt pathetically small for such a big life. We set the funeral for Tuesday, 3 days after his death. It seemed like enough time for people to travel after Rachel's party on Saturday. Surely my family would come now that their precious celebration was over. I created a Facebook event with the funeral details and tagged all of them. I sent the same information via group text. I even emailed my parents and Jessica directly, including a map to the funeral home. Replies trickled in. Mom, we will try our best to be there. Rachel is exhausted from the party, but we know this is important, too. Dad, we'll check my calendar and let you know. Rachel, thumbs up Jessica. I will definitely be there early to help you set up. Just tell me what you need. Love you. I wanted to scream. My husband was dead at 34. My life had been blown apart. And my sister was tired from her party. My father needed to check his calendar. Only Jessica's response gave me any real comfort, and even that, experience told me, came with an asterisk. On Monday, I chose Michael's burial clothes, the blue suit he'd worn at our wedding. It hung looser now, he'd lost so much weight. I smoothed the fabric, remembering how handsome he'd looked that day, how his eyes had filled with tears when I walked down the aisle. Jessica called that evening. Nina, I'm so sorry about everything. The party was exhausting, and I feel awful I couldn't be there when it happened. But I promise I'll be at the funeral first thing tomorrow. Do you want me to come over tonight? We could have wine and talk. No, I said, my voice flat. I need to be alone tonight. I understand. I'll see you tomorrow then. 8 a.m. sharp, right? I'll bring coffee. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of relief. At least one person from my old life would stand beside me. Tuesday dawned gray and drizzly, as if the weather understood. I dressed mechanically in the black dress I'd rushed ordered 2 days before, put on minimal makeup, and drove to the funeral home. Michael's parents were waiting. His mother hugged me tightly. "We're here for you, sweetheart," she whispered. Today and always. I checked my phone. 8:15 a.m. No Jessica. No messages from my family. I sent a quick text. "Are you on your way?" 8:30. The funeral director approached gently. "Mrs. Wilson, we should prepare to receive guests soon. Would you like a private moment with your husband first?" I nodded and followed him into the viewing room. Michael's casket sat surrounded by flowers, mostly from his coworkers and friends. A large arrangement from his parents. A small bouquet I'd chosen, white roses with forget-me-nots, his favorite. Nothing from my family. Not even a card. 9 o'clock, guests began arriving. Michael's coworkers. His college roommate, who'd flown in from Seattle. Neighbors from our apartment building. They hugged me, cried with me, shared stories that sometimes made me smile through the tears. 9:30, still no Jessica. No one from my family. My phone stayed silent. The service began at 10 o'clock. I sat in the front row between Michael's parents, acutely aware of the empty seats we'd saved for mine. The celebrant spoke about Michael's life, his work, his kindness. Friends told stories. His boss talked about Michael's contributions to renewable energy projects, how his work would help communities for decades. When it was my turn to speak, I almost couldn't stand. Facing a room full of Michael's people, not mine, the hole left by my own family felt like a physical wound. But I'd promised him I'd be strong. I unfolded my notes and somehow found my voice, talking about the man who had changed everything for me, who'd shown me what unconditional love actually looked like. As the service ended, my phone vibrated. A notification from social media. Rachel had posted more engagement party photos. I should have ignored it. Instead, I opened them. There they were, my parents smiling beside Rachel and Bradford, champagne flutes in hand, Jessica laughing mid-toast. Everyone dressed to the nines, celebrating like nothing else in the world existed. The timestamps weren't from Saturday. They were from Monday, the day before the funeral. The party had rolled straight into a multi-day celebration. While I'd been choosing Michael's urn, they'd been brunching at an upscale hotel. While I'd been writing his obituary, they'd been popping champagne. At the graveside, our small procession headed to the cemetery. As they lowered Michael's casket, I stood alone at the edge of the grave. His parents stepped back a little, giving me privacy for this last moment. Rain mingled with my tears. "I love you more than yesterday," I whispered, "less than tomorrow." The words I'd said to him every night for 5 years. The first shovel of dirt hit the casket. My phone lit up, a text from my mother. "We need to talk now." Below it, 22 missed calls from Mom, Dad, Rachel, and Jessica, all within the last hour. I turned off my phone and watched them bury my husband. The house felt emptier than ever when I came home from the cemetery. Michael's parents had offered to stay, but I needed to be alone with the silence. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching his things, breathing in the fading scent from his pillow. When I finally turned my phone back on, it immediately buzzed and chimed. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. I started with my mother. "Nina, we are so sorry we couldn't make it to the funeral. Rachel was not feeling well this morning after the party. Please call us when you get this. We are worried about you. Your father and I feel terrible. We wanted to be there, but circumstances prevented it." My father's messages echoed hers, vague excuses, half-hearted apologies. We couldn't disappoint Rachel and Bradford's family by leaving the post-engagement brunch early. Jessica had sent more texts, each more frantic than the last. "Nina, I am so sorry. I overslept after the party. Are you getting these? Please respond. I know you must hate me right now. I have no excuse. Please let me explain in person. I am coming over later." Rachel had sent a single message. "Sorry about Michael. I was really busy with engagement stuff. Hope the funeral went okay. I put the phone down. I didn't have the energy to answer any of them. What excuse could possibly cover missing my husband's funeral for a party that had turned into a 3-day event? As I made tea, an email notification popped up. It was from Timothy, one of Michael's coworkers who'd been at the funeral. Subject: you should see this. His message was short. I happened to be at the Grand Hotel for a business lunch yesterday. Your family was there celebrating your sister's engagement. I thought you should know what was said. I'm so sorry, Nina. Attached was a video. My hands shook as I pressed play. The clip showed the hotel's outdoor terrace, flowers, balloons, beautifully set tables. My family sat together, champagne glasses in hand. Bradford stood, giving a toast. The video was shot from a distance, but the audio was clear. He finished, and Rachel stood up, clearly tipsy. I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate us, she said, glowing. Especially my parents, who put this amazing party together despite my sister's drama. Laughter rippled around the table. Seriously though, she went on, Nina always has some crisis happening. First marrying that nobody engineer against everyone's advice, and now making his illness the center of attention during my engagement. My mother patted Rachel's arm but said nothing. My father nodded along. Thank God you all prioritized what really matters, Rachel added, raising her glass. To family who shows up for the important things. The camera shifted slightly. I saw Jessica laughing, clinking glasses with Rachel. Nina has always been the queen of exaggeration, she said loud enough to carry. Remember when she thought she deserved valedictorian in high school? Or acted like her college graduation was such a big deal? More laughter. My mother leaned toward Jessica. She called last night saying Michael was dying right then, and we all needed to rush over the night before Rachel's party. The timing was so inconsiderate. I stopped the video. I felt physically sick. They hadn't just missed the funeral because of poor planning. They had chosen to keep celebrating and mocked my grief while they did it. Trembling, I scrolled back through my texts with Jessica. 3 weeks earlier, she'd asked about Michael's prognosis. I'd told her honestly that the doctors thought it would be soon. Possibly days. The next day, Rachel had announced her engagement party date. Right in that window. It hadn't been coincidence. Rachel had deliberately scheduled her celebration knowing my husband might be dying, and my parents and my best friend had gone along with it. I kept scrolling back. Years of messages. Patterns everywhere, my achievements minimized, Rachel's exalted, my needs brushed aside, Rachel's treated as urgent crises. Michael had seen it clearly early on. They don't even give you basic respect, he'd said once. I defended them then, making excuses. As night fell, another text came from my mother. Your father and I want to discuss the family trust with you. We are making some changes and need your signature. Can you come by tomorrow? I called Susan, a coworker who'd become a friend during Michael's illness. She'd been at the funeral that morning and had offered to come by if I needed anything. Do you know anything about family trusts? I asked when she picked up. My husband does, she said. He's an estate attorney. Why? My parents want me to sign something about changes to theirs. Today of all days. Susan's tone sharpened. Don't sign anything without reading every word, Nina. Especially not when you're grieving. Do you want Richard to look at it? Would he mind? Not at all. He always says grief and legal documents are a dangerous combination. Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Jessica holding flowers and a bottle of wine. Someone's here. I'll call you back, I told Susan. For a second, I considered ignoring the door. But a heavier part of me wanted this confrontation. I opened it, stepping into the doorway so she couldn't come in. Jessica's eyes were puffy, her mascara smeared. Nina, I am so sorry. Please let me explain. Explain what? I asked. That you chose a party over my husband's funeral? That you laughed while my sister mocked him as he was dying? Her face went pale. What are you talking about? I saw the video, Jessica. From brunch. I heard every word. I was just playing along. You know how Rachel gets if you don't agree with her. No, I don't know, I said, my voice low. Because I don't betray the people I love just to stay in someone's good graces. Her expression hardened. You've always been so judgmental, Nina. So perfect and martyred. Rachel's right, you make everything about you. My husband died, I shouted, not caring who heard. He died, and none of you cared enough to be there. Not for the worst moment of my life. We cared, she started, then faltered. We just had to, you just had more important things to do. Like champagne and toasts and jokes at my expense. Nina, please. We've been friends for 20 years. Don't throw that away. You threw it away, I said, suddenly calm. Not me. Please leave. Your family is worried about you, she tried again. They sent me to check on you, to bring you home. I am home. And they're not my family anymore. Neither are you. I closed the door on her protests and leaned against it as sobs tore through me. The last illusion was gone. I was truly alone, abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me from the beginning. That night was darker than the night Michael died. Back then, I still believed I had a family to lean on. Now I knew better. The next morning, I woke to more missed calls and a new text from my father. We are coming over at 11 o'clock. We need to resolve the situation. I didn't reply, but I knew they'd come anyway. For once, I was grateful Michael had insisted on installing a security camera system. At least I could see who was outside before opening the door. At 10:45, I called Richard, who had reviewed the trust documents my parents had emailed overnight. Nina, I'm glad you sent these, he said, his voice grave. This amendment would effectively remove you from the family trust entirely and redirect your share to Rachel. They need your signature because the original document required equal distribution between both children. They want me to sign away my inheritance the day after my husband's funeral, I said. I shouldn't have been shocked anymore, but I was. Do not sign anything, Richard said. And from now on, I'd strongly advise having your own attorney look at any financial documents they send. At exactly 11 o'clock, the doorbell rang. The camera showed my parents, Rachel, and Jessica on the porch. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Finally, my mother said, brushing past me into the living room. We've been trying to reach you for days. 24 hours, I corrected. Michael has been dead for exactly 24 hours. Don't be melodramatic, Rachel said, rolling her eyes and dropping onto my couch. We all know he was sick for months. You've had plenty of time to prepare. My father at least looked uneasy. Jessica hovered near the door, eyes down. Why are you here? I asked, staying on my feet while they made themselves comfortable in my home. We're worried about you, my mother said, wearing a concerned expression that never touched her eyes. Isolating yourself isn't healthy. We want you to come stay with us for a while. She glanced at my father. And we have some family business to discuss, he added, patting his briefcase. Just a small matter of updating some paperwork. The trust documents that would disinherit me, I said evenly. Their shock would have been comical under different circumstances. How did you? Those are private family documents, my father sputtered. Yes, I said. Private documents about my inheritance. Did you really think I'd sign without reading them or consulting an attorney? You had no right to show those to an outsider, my mother snapped. Like you had no right to skip my husband's funeral for a party. Silence settled, heavy and ugly. Rachel broke it with a loud sigh. Are we still on that? It wasn't just a party. It was my engagement celebration, a once-in-a-lifetime event. And Michael's funeral wasn't? I asked, my voice remarkably steady. Inside, my hands shook. People die every day. Rachel shrugged. I'll only get engaged once. Actually, I said, statistically speaking, and with your track record and attitude, you'll probably get engaged multiple times. Her face flushed. How dare you? I saw the video, I said, turning to all of them. From the brunch. I heard what you said about me. About him. My mother's face drained of color. What video? I took out my phone and played it. We watched my sister's toast, my mother's comments, my father's nod, Jessica's jokes. When it ended, my father said, that was taken out of context. What context, I asked quietly, makes that okay? Mocking my dying husband. Laughing at my pain. Nina, we didn't mean, Jessica began. Yes, you did, I cut in. All of you. That's who you are. I crossed to my laptop and opened a folder I'd prepared over the past week. I've been thinking a lot about our family since Michael got sick, I said. About how I've been treated compared to Rachel. So I started keeping track. I turned the screen toward them. Here are all the birthdays and Christmases where Rachel got expensive gifts and I got practical things. Here are school events of mine you skipped and all of hers you attended. Here are the times my accomplishments were ignored while hers were celebrated. 28 years of the same pattern. This is ridiculous, my mother snapped. You're acting like a child, keeping score. No, I said calmly. I'm acting like someone who finally sees clearly. You have never loved me the way you love Rachel. I was always the afterthought. The obligation. And now I know you don't love me at all. Of course we love you, my father insisted. We're here, aren't we? You're here with paperwork to cut me out of the trust, I replied. The day after my husband's funeral, which none of you even bothered to attend. That isn't love. Rachel stood, clearly done. Can we just get this over with? Nina, just sign the papers. It's not like you need the money with your husband's life insurance. The brutality of that sentence was so stark even my parents fell silent. Get out, I said quietly. All of you. Get out of my house. Nina, be reasonable, my mother began. Get out, I shouted. Years of swallowed anger finally tearing free. I have been reasonable my entire life. I've accepted being second best, ignored, dismissed. Not anymore. I walked to the door and opened it. From this moment forward, I have no family. No parents. No sister. No childhood friend. You're strangers. You can't be serious, my father sputtered. We're your family. Family doesn't do what you did, I said. Family shows up. Family supports you in grief. Family loves without conditions. You've failed every test. Jessica approached me, tears streaming. Nina, please. I know I messed up. But 20 years of friendship has to count for something. It counted for nothing to you when you chose Rachel's party over Michael's funeral, I said. When you laughed at me. When you called me dramatic for grieving my husband. I'll do anything to make this right, she begged. There's nothing left to fix, I replied. Please leave. One by one they filed out. My parents shell-shocked. Rachel furious. Jessica broken. As my mother passed, she grabbed my arm. You'll regret this, she hissed. When the grief passes, you'll need us. I gently removed her hand. No, I won't. Goodbye, Elizabeth. Using her first name snapped the last thread. Her face crumpled for an instant, then hardened. Without another word, she walked to the car. When I closed the door on them, a strange sense of calm flooded me. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself the way Michael always told me I deserved to. That evening, I called a therapist who specialized in grief and family trauma. I called Susan and thanked her and Richard for their help. I started researching support groups for young widows and for people who had cut ties with toxic families. My new life was beginning, built on the ruins of everything I'd lost. But for the first time, I was going to put myself first. The weeks after confronting my family were both excruciating and oddly freeing. Grief came in waves. I'd find myself sobbing in the cereal aisle because they still stocked Michael's favorite granola, or collapsing while folding his t-shirts, the fabric still smelling faintly of him. My therapist, Dr. Laurel Anderson, helped me see that I was mourning two things at once, my husband and my family of origin. Complex grief, she called it. The betrayal by my family had tangled itself around my grief for Michael. You've experienced what we call disenfranchised grief, she explained in one session. Your loss wasn't acknowledged or supported by those who should have been your primary support system. That adds trauma on top of trauma. 3 weeks after the funeral, I attended my first widow's support group at a community center. Walking into that room was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. Admitting I belonged there made Michael's death real in a fresh, brutal way. There were 8 of us, women from their 20s to their 70s. Age didn't matter. What united us was the specific pain of watching someone fade, the nightmare of paperwork and insurance, the clueless questions from acquaintances. Are you dating again? Are you over it yet? There, I met Sarah, 36, widowed nearly a year after her husband's sudden heart attack. Her dry wit and practical outlook on grief clicked with me immediately. The first 2 months I just wore his bathrobe and ate cereal for dinner, she told me over coffee after a meeting. Then one day I realized Steve would have been so pissed at me for giving up like that. So I started doing one grown-up thing a day. Showering. Cooking something. Walking around the block. Not much, but it was something. I adopted her one grown-up thing rule. Some days that one thing was all I could manage. Other days I surprised myself by doing more. I went back to work part-time. My boss was kind, giving me flexible hours. My in-laws checked in regularly, never pushing, always reminding me I wasn't alone. Michael's mother sent care packages with cookies and silly gifts. His father helped with insurance forms and house tasks Michael would have done. "You'll always be our daughter," Sharon told me one afternoon. That doesn't change because Michael's gone. Their steady love threw my own family's behavior into even sharper relief. My parents called a few times after the blow-up, leaving voicemails about healing the rift and moving forward. I didn't return them. Rachel texted once, "You're being ridiculous. Call mom and dad and apologize." Jessica was more persistent. Emails. Texts. Even handwritten letters apologizing, begging for another chance. I read them all and felt nothing but a hollow ache where our friendship had been. Setting boundaries isn't the same as holding grudges, Dr. Anderson reminded me. You're protecting yourself from people who've shown they can't be trusted with your vulnerability. For months after Michael's death, I decided to sell our apartment. Every room was saturated with memories. Beautiful, but suffocating. I found a smaller place across town, close to a park Michael and I had liked. Packing. I found a sealed envelope in his nightstand. Inside was a letter, written in his shaky handwriting during his final weeks. "My dearest Nina, if you are reading this, I am gone and you are facing life without me. I am so sorry to leave you. Loving you has been the greatest joy and privilege of my life." The letter went on for 3 pages. He reminisced about our time together. He encouraged me to find happiness again. And he wrote, over and over, how sure he was of my strength. "You are so much stronger than you know," he wrote. "I've watched you bend, but never break, under the weight of your family's indifference. Now I hope you'll use that strength for yourself, not just to endure, but to thrive. To build a life filled with people who see your beautiful heart the way I always have." I clutched the letter to my chest and sobbed. But underneath the pain was something else, connection. In those words he was still here, still loving me, still believing in me. That letter became my talisman. I carried it to therapy, to support group, on days when the grief felt like it might swallow me whole. Michael's faith in me became the foundation I slowly rebuilt on. 6 months after losing him, I joined a volunteer program at the hospital where he'd been treated. Twice a week I sat with chemo patients, offering conversation or quiet company. At first it was almost unbearable, everything too familiar. But gradually, being there started to heal instead of hurt. I couldn't save Michael, but I could sit with others in their fear. Through volunteering, I met Elaine and Frank, a couple in their 60s who'd lost their son to cancer 5 years before. They folded me into their lives, inviting me for Sunday dinners, showing me a kind of parental love that never felt conditional. Grief connects people in strange ways, Elaine said one night as we washed dishes. It's like joining a club no one wants to join. But once you're in it, you find family you never knew you had. Around the same time, I discovered I could write about grief. What started as journal entries turned into blog posts. People began responding, sharing their own losses, thanking me for putting words to feelings they hadn't known how to express. A community formed around that little corner of the internet. It became another lifeline. On the 1-year anniversary of Michael's death, my in-laws visited. Together, we went to Lake Michigan and scattered some of his ashes, just as he'd asked. The day was clear, the water a deep blue like the urn I'd chosen. "He would have loved it here today," his father said, his arm around my shoulders. "He'd be so proud of you," his mother added. "Of how you've carried on." I could only nod. But for the first time, the grief didn't feel like it was devouring me. It had become part of me instead, woven into who I was, not all I was. That evening, an email arrived from my mother. Subject: Family emergency. Your father has had a heart attack. Rachel's wedding is postponed. We need your help with medical bills. Please call. My hand hovered over the delete icon, but curiosity won and I searched online. A local news article confirmed that my father had indeed had a heart attack, but the tone suggested it was moderate, not catastrophic. Another article mentioned that Bradford had called off his engagement to Rachel amid rumors of financial impropriety at his law firm. For a brief moment, I considered calling her. Them. Then I remembered the hotel video. Their absence at the funeral. The trust documents. Instead of calling, I researched financial assistance programs for medical expenses and sent my mother a list of links. No greeting. No signature. Just information. Jessica had stopped reaching out months earlier. But one day Sarah ran into her at a coffee shop. She asked about you, Sarah told me later. Said she misses you, but understands why you cut contact. She and your sister had some kind of falling out too. I nodded, feeling a distant sadness, but no tug to reconnect. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. As seasons changed, so did I. The woman who'd stood alone at her husband's grave was still inside me, but she wasn't the whole story anymore. I'd built a life Michael would recognize. Maybe even admire. A small house with a garden where I grew vegetables and flowers. A promotion at work. A grief support workshop I facilitated at the community center. I had friends who called just to check on me. Who remembered Michael's birthday and our anniversary. Who understood that my grief would never disappear, but also that it didn't define every part of me. I hadn't spoken to my parents or Rachel in 2 years. My mother still sent the occasional email, usually when they needed something. I no longer felt guilty for ignoring them. They had forfeited their place in my life. Sometimes at night I still talked to Michael. I'd tell him about my day, my victories and failures, the people in my life. In my heart, I could almost hear him answering, still the same patient, amused voice. You were right, I whispered one night to his photo on my nightstand. I am stronger than I knew. On the 2nd anniversary of his death, I took the day off work and went to the cemetery. His headstone was simple and elegant, just as he'd wanted. I laid fresh flowers against it, then sat on the little bench I'd had installed nearby. 2 years, love, I said aloud, no longer embarrassed to talk to him where others might see. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like another lifetime. So much had changed since that rainy morning when I'd stood alone watching his casket disappear into the ground. I had a home I'd made my own. Work that mattered. People who showed up, who proved with actions, not words, that they cared. As I sat there, lost in thought, I heard footsteps on the gravel path. A familiar figure appeared at the edge of my vision, Jessica, moving slowly up the lane, a small bouquet in her hands. She looked nervous, older, carrying her own kind of grief. She stopped when she saw me, clearly torn between coming closer and turning back the way she'd come. I can come another time, she said. It's okay, I replied, surprising myself. You can put those down. She set her flowers beside mine and stood awkwardly for a moment before speaking. I come every year. I didn't expect to see you here today. You visit Michael's grave? I asked, genuinely surprised. Jessica nodded. I know it doesn't make up for missing the funeral. Nothing could, I said. But I wanted to hear her. For the first time in 2 years, I really looked at my former best friend. She seemed older, quieter, less polished. The fashionable, always put together Jessica I had known had been replaced by someone more real, less concerned with appearances. How have you been? I asked. Not ready to discuss the deeper stuff yet, she said. Okay, different, I said. Rachel and I had a huge falling out after everything. She had expected me to take her side completely, and I just couldn't anymore. That made me realize how toxic our friendship had become. What happened with her engagement? I heard it was called off. Jessica sighed. Bradford's firm is being investigated for fraud. He dumped Rachel when it looked like he might be implicated. Turns out he was only with her for family connections. She was devastated. And my parents? I asked, surprised by my own curiosity. Your father recovered from the heart attack. They had to downsize their house because of medical bills. They're not speaking to me either, since I refused to cut Rachel off completely. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the weight of our shared history and fractured relationships heavy in the air. I'm sorry, Nina, Jessica finally said. Truly, deeply sorry. Not just for missing the funeral, but for years of not being the friend I deserved. For getting caught up in Rachel's orbit and forgetting what real friendship means. I studied her face, searching for sincerity, and I found it. Thank you for saying that, I said. I don't expect forgiveness or for things to go back to how they were. I just wanted you to know that I recognize how badly you failed me, and losing your friendship has been the hardest consequence of your actions. We talked for nearly an hour, catching up on our lives, but also acknowledging the pain and betrayal that had torn us apart. Jessica had been in therapy, too, working through her family issues and her habit of seeking approval from the wrong people. Michael would be amazed at the woman you've become, she said as we prepared to leave. He always saw your strength, even when you couldn't. He did, I agreed, touching the headstone gently. He taught me what real love looks like. His love gave me the courage to demand better from everyone else in my life. We exchanged phone numbers before parting. No promises, just a door left slightly ajar after being firmly shut for 2 years. That evening, I hosted a small dinner at my house. Sarah and her new boyfriend, Elaine and Frank from my support group, and Susan and Richard, who had helped me after Michael's death, came over. As we shared a meal and laughter filled my home, I felt Michael's presence in the warmth of the gathering. Later, after everyone had gone, I sat in my garden under the stars, reflecting on the past 2 years. I had lost my husband and my family of origin, endured betrayal and abandonment, felt pain I never imagined surviving. Yet here I was, not just surviving, but creating a life of meaning and connection. The deepest lesson I had learned: family isn't only blood or legal ties. Family is the people who show up when you need them most, who hold space for your pain without judgment, who celebrate your joys without jealousy or conditions. I also learned that setting boundaries is not selfish but essential. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Some relationships are too damaged to repair, and that's okay. Most importantly, I discovered my own resilience. The strength Michael always saw in me had finally become visible to myself. I carried his love not as a burden, but as a gift that continued to guide me. As the stars twinkled overhead, I whispered, "Thank you for loving me, Michael, for showing me what I deserve. I am building a beautiful life, just like you wanted for me." A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and for a moment, I felt embraced by something larger than myself. Not alone, never truly alone. If you are watching this and struggling with toxic family relationships or grief, know that healing is possible. It doesn't happen overnight, and the path isn't straight, but you can build a life filled with authentic love and connection. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family who hurt you? How did you find the courage to put yourself first? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please subscribe for more stories of resilience and healing. Remember, the family you choose can be more meaningful than the family you were born into. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength on your own journey.